Hello again, everyone. Welcome, Economic Preppers. We're on with Dylan and Patrick. Hello, guys. And we have a special guest today, Allan Staple of the Staple Crew. Welcome aboard, Allan.
Hey, guys.
And, it's even more
so glad to be here. Thanks for having me aboard.
Yeah, and I think the phrase "welcome aboard" is very appropriate for a ship captain here joining us today. So that's get that nautical influence there. But we've met Allan several times at different conferences over the last few years, and let me share his channel so that you guys know about him. He's really seen a good amount of growth in the last 6 months to a year. Some of his videos have taken off, but this is the Staple Crew, and sometimes he's joined by his son Brent. That's why the crew, but also he's a ship captain. So again, the crew is very appropriate. So stay tuned with, just definitely check out Allan's channel. He does a lot of commentary on financials and economics and cryptocurrency. So he's a perfect blend for our audience and just, chatting here with the rest of the guys. So I just wanted to launch off, and Allan, I know that you're big and you've done a lot of homework on XRP and other cryptocurrencies, but I think you are probably positioned well to speak of. Let's start with the XRP and Ripple. So first off, for our audience, let's explain the difference between the two and where your take is on where things are at with both XRP and Ripple right now.
Well, the difference between the two is, a lot of people don't know, but Ripple was not the parent company, actually, of XRP. XRP was actually created before Ripple was involved. But through some partnerships and whatnot, they obtained the use of XRP as a coin through the Ripple company. So they really, over the years, they blended together. And this is why they've really gotten themselves in hot water with the SEC. As we all know, it's been a 2.5-year debate, if you will, lawsuit. And it's been brutal for anybody that holds XRP. I feel your pain. And I really believe, all you have to do is look at the 40 nations that already are using it in their banking system. And then you can tell it has a future as a coin, as fundamentally. There's so many cryptocurrencies that we get involved in that don't have the fundamentals that XRP does or Ripple as a company has, because it has, they're up to 800 employees now. I mean, how many cryptos can say that? And, patents and legislations being created now through the court system, and which could enable them to be the first coin to really get a true blessing as to into the 401k and retirement, market. So it's huge. I know I kind of bounced around quite a bit there, but sure. If you don't own the coin and you own the top 20 coins, I probably understand why you don't, because same thing I understood for the first 4 or 5 years I was in crypto. I thought it was the banker's coin, which it pretty much is. And that's probably one of the things I like about it the most, is because if you're really looking to earn some money and make profit on your crypto, following the banking system is probably not a bad idea, at least in the short term, so that you can get yourself some profits, get whatever it is, set yourself up in a prepper situation, if you will, and then maybe get out of it because you don't believe in them morally or their issues or the way they actually run the planet. So
I just wanted to follow. I want to follow up real quickly on what you said there, though. And I know there's in the crypto community, which we've both been in, all of us have been in for years. There's this propensity to be against the banking system. So the question really is that are you in bed with the devil at this point by being with XRP and Ripple and the banking system, and is the future of XRP really hinged upon the ISO 2000? I don't even know how to pronounce it. 222, 2000, 20,022, which
I like to call it. Yeah.
Is it married to that? That's really the recipe for success?
I think that's pretty obvious. Yeah, to some degree. But, anytime that people want to really go down that moral issue with me, let's just start with this one. you put gasoline in your vehicle every day to go to work and back. Your parents did, your grandparents did. The oil industry is probably the most corrupt and immoral thing I can think of. They go in and they conquer nations, they destroy Baghdad, they destroy a lot of people's lives over the pursuit of oil, and yet you use it every single day and you don't seem to have a moral issue with that. So the moral argument really kind of falls by the wayside unless you're really trying to change the world, and we have to do a lot of steps as a society to get before we start worrying about that. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense.
It does. Dylan, you had a question?
If you're only going to vote, if you're only going to vote by purchase, by the things that you completely believe in, then I would say you probably shouldn't buy XRP. But then there's a lot of products that you're not going to be able to purchase.
Yeah, I think you make some good points. I think one thing that is a big talking point, but also can be a big problem is, like you said, people get hung up, especially in the crypto space, on their morals or the appearance of morals for whatever project. They get very ideologically possessed in their beliefs around, you know, where their money goes, what the project's going to do, and so on and so forth. And I know there's a lot of people, especially coming from the Bitcoin side, that basically think the fiat system's corrupt and that it's going to completely implode, that the dollar is going to completely die and be completely useless and everything along those lines. And it seems like they may think that that's happening sooner. But then on the flip side, like, there's also the real practical reality. And we've seen, you know, Bitcoin's been around 14 years, but we've seen multiple bull runs, and we're, you know, appearing to gear up for another bull run where it's not just Bitcoin that performs, it's a bunch of other tokens and coins. And there's a real practical use in being able to ride that wave for some of these other tokens out there. And XRP being a very good example of that. Like, when you show the backing of it, when you show all those things there, and, you know, it's got this case against the SEC, and if that gets, you know, if they win that case, and if, you know, they're able to get on the market and people are able to access that coin, there could be some real utility there in the systems that we currently have in place. And so I'd love to hear your comment on, like, you know, the weighing the pros, cons, and benefits in navigating those waters of kind of playing the hand that you're dealt, and then also setting yourself up for the outcome that you really would want and prefer.
Well, yeah, first of all, I guess I should really explain my portfolio to everybody. I counted them since Jeff and I talked the other day. I have over 20 coins. So I believe in a lot of projects, and I do believe in diversity. And I do, I have a pretty broad, I started buying crypto in 16. So I've been around the block a little bit, and I can tell you that I probably haven't sold but a handful of them. So I'm an accumulator, and I like to learn about new projects, but I really find if you're out of the top 20 or 50 that you're really speculating more than ever. So I really like to focus on the top 50 coins if I can, and their use case and really what they're into. Now, as far as the banking aspect, I think that was part of your question, or maybe not.
Yeah.
We need to go to something, and I know that it's a prepper channel basically in a lot of different ways, and I am a prepper in a lot of ways. I have my own ranch. I have my own well. I'm off grid. I raise my own animals. My wife and I really believe in that. I have precious metals. I have lead, and you know, it's really how I got started. Was what I do for a living. I work for the wealthy, and I learned what they know about how to make money and where to make money. So after 30 years of rubbing elbows with some of the wealthiest people in the world, it rubs off. And what I learned was, if you're not in it early in projects or a new banking system, if you will, it's going to be very difficult for you to achieve generational wealth by starting, oh, well, I'm going to buy B of A stocks. How's that going to work out for you? So you have to be ahead of technology. And one of my things that really resonates with me is you guys have all had it. You guys have been in crypto probably longer than I have in some ways, but the thing that works for me, and you can see it in the people who are really into crypto, is you picture the use case 4 and 5 years ahead of time, and you can see it, and you see what it's going to tackle, and you see what it's going to do to systems and banking and the movement of money. And when you equate that, it's so easy. Once the light bulb goes off in your head, you're the person who can go, okay, I know where this is going. I know where it's going, and I want to get ahead of it, and I want to be part of that. And I think that's why I haven't put all my eggs in one basket. That's why I have so many different, because at this stage of the game, it's impossible to tell which coin is the coin. Although I do believe in Bitcoin, it's probably my number one holding. As far as use case, I believe Bitcoin's the future for sure. But the movement of money, although Lightning Network's come a long way, and I really love what Strike's doing, and I love the reach that it has now. So who knows? You know, I think I answered the question, but hopefully you guys got that. But it's fun. It's a fun space to be in.
Really fun because, man, like what was that? 2014, XRP was hitting a penny, if I'm correct, right around there. And I started mining in 2015, and I kind of thought like you know, rich people, they diversify. So what about this XRP? And then it started crashing, 0.003 something cents. You know, it's like a third of a penny. And I was like, okay, I'll put some money. It doubles, it triples. And I remember when it hit $3, like I was laughing so hard. I was so confused as to, like, I remember thinking, I bought one of those coin things. I put some money in XRP, and I went back and started looking, and I didn't realize I was XRP Army until later when I got to mining, and I found out they actually had like clubs for people now. You know, it was pretty fun.
Yeah. They're some of the most well-informed people in crypto I know. I mean, they're very conspiratorial, which kind of fits in my mindset, but they're very anti-Bitcoin in a lot of ways, and they're very anti-Ethereum in particular, because they think those two coins got a hall pass and they're getting thrown in the mud. So you can see why they feel that way. But
yeah, well, especially the Ripple people with the SEC and what's going on there, and there's been attacks from Coinbase and Veritasium and like lots of different selective lawsuits and selective enforcement almost. But I mean, with the XRP argument,
so many funny memories, Jeff. Like seriously, I remember thinking of my miners. One of the days I would say, whatever these bank of miners produce today, I'm going to put it into a different token. And I would do that every once in a while. And I remember XRP and what it was about. And then I had to go back and reread it. So like seeing someone else, I think there's only a few of us that I know who got into XRP that early. Another one is, Ninja, Travis, he's XRP Army. And so is I am George.
Yeah, George.
The first XRP I bought was 3 cents, and that was early 17. And I just happened to have a bit of it laying around, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's no big deal. And then I just recently looked, and my dollar cost average is just over 15 cents. So I'm well in profit, but it's amazing to me when I hear those numbers of 0.003. You know, those are like the old
because you already had
numbers.
You had to swap with someone else who was like, hey, have you ever had Monero? No, I'll try some of that. It's just at Walmart. You just exchange, you know, no one knows what they're doing. They're on like Leolana coins, and it's been a crazy wild ride when you think about it, because here we are, and I'm coming up on almost close to 10 years in the industry.
I used to stay up 2, 3 in the morning because my wife, Elizabeth, some of you probably have seen her on my show. Her brother lives in Canada. So you obviously remember the ICO days, right? So we couldn't buy most of these coins, the ones I wanted to buy anyway. For some reason, you had to be out of the country to ICO these things. So I'm like trying to get the gas money and, oh no, I didn't have enough gas, Ethereum to buy these coins. And I look back at the coins and the price I paid for these things. Wow. It's like most of them aren't around much anymore. But
the best one is when you call your friend and you're like, people overhear the conversation, and back then you sound like crazy. Hey, can you send me some gas fees, please? Yeah, you got my address. Okay, and they're like, what is happening over there?
Yeah, it was crazy days. Well, the ICO days were just like people were getting stinking rich overnight. It was crazy. Yeah, I got to tell this story. I don't think I've told this story on air with it, even on my channel. I can't believe I'm like 160 shows into my channel. I just feel like I just started and I'm having so much fun. It's great. But I first went into the bank and I said, hey, I want to buy this crypto stuff. And my banker's looking at me like, what the hell's a crypto? And I know the Bitcoin thing. And this is like late, like December 16th. And he goes, well, no, I can't give you a personal loan on that kind of thing. And I just then I went quiet and I came in like a month later. And I had paid cash from my wife's Honda, which I never do, right? And I went in and I went, how much could, it was only a year-old car, a CRV. I was like, hey, how much could I borrow against this car? I hawked my wife's car, basically, to buy crypto. And like everybody and their brother was looking at me like, what? But I was buying Bitcoin at like $400, $300. And I can remember buying Litecoin for like 10 cents, 20 cents or whatever it was back then.
How about this one? I've never said this one either. Maybe I have. Student loans.
Oh, nice. Hadn't thought of that angle.
Yeah. I took as much money as I could out that they'd give me in college. As every penny I could, I put them into CDs. And then in 2015, when I figured out what it was, I cashed out all the CDs and never looked back. Bitcoin's paying off better. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe Biden. Yeah.
Well, maybe he'll take those away and I'll just get to keep my Bitcoin free and clear. Thanks, guys. Taxpayers for funding it for me.
Seems like it's headed that way. Yeah. Who knows?
Well, Allan, you brought up a really good point about the use case on Ripple there, on XRP. And I think that's what a lot of people need. Like, people need to understand the purpose of the project, right? What is the point of this project even existing? And then you can see, like, once you understand that, you start to see things like, oh, this would be a great time. If only they had Ripple ready, this would solve that problem, or they would have Theta or Matic or whatever project. So I think that, you're sticking, like, a lot of Bitcoin maximalists are out there. They try to take Bitcoin and fit it into every possible scenario. And it's not always the best usage of Bitcoin, because then you're starting to compromise. Like, if you try to make it, you make it the best store of value that it can be. And then you start like, well, Bitcoin can do this. It can do smart contracts too. It can do ordinals. It could do that. But then you start to diminish the main purpose of that coin. That's what the purpose of these other projects are. So I think it's important to understand, why do these other projects exist and why are they out there?
Yeah.
And when is the applicability? I mean, July 1st is literally a couple days away. And we've heard that this FedNow system is going to come out, but no one seems to understand how CBDCs are going to be implemented, how it's going to be put together, how these banks are going to work with them. It seems to me like, what is your interpretation of the FedNow and what role Ripple could play or other project could play in that, or even ISO 2022?
Gosh, yeah. You know what? I've heard every story under the sun about the whole thing. Now I heard it's the 20th it comes out. July 20th. Yeah, that's what I heard recently. I heard they were going to originally release it just for banking transactions originally, and then it was just going to work its way into the public hands and then be a smaller situation. But I've heard both. it's one of my favorite things to talk about in a sense that I really don't think CBDCs are going to succeed. And I've done so many shows on it now, but I don't think they'll succeed because they're not Bitcoin. They don't have the security of Bitcoin. They don't, there's no way they could. How could they not be hacked? How are they not going to just? I don't know. You know, any of us that remembers the whole Obamacare episode, whenever the government gets involved with software or technology, they just muck it up. And I think they're going to have real trouble with even this FedNow launch. And the fact that we're not hearing much about it tells me they're not real confident in it and where it's going. But I've heard everything from it's going to run on. I even heard somebody the other day tried somebody's going to run on Polkadot, and I was like, Hedera hash graph. I've heard. I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe, but that's first I've heard of it, you know. But anyway, it's odd to me. I know a lot of people think it's going to run on XRP. I've never read any of that. I've never seen anything specifically stating that. However, I know Colombia just said that they were going to use it for their CBDCs last week. So other countries are going to use RippleNet for that purpose. So I don't know about the US. I really don't. And you know how this country is. It's almost impossible to get anything from the government because I really think the government doesn't know what they're doing to begin with. And they're so compartmentalized that they don't talk to each other. They don't share notes at all. And the notes they do share is pretty much against you and I. And they really have a hard time making a good decision for any of us. So lately in particular, it seems like, I don't like to get too political, but you know, I get tired of the way things are being run. I love to say to my son, who's probably got your guys' age, like, man, I wish you could have seen the country I grew up in. It was a good place, but we can get it back there again. I really believe that. I guess I didn't answer your question about the CB or the FedNow.
Well, I guess really, let me try to build on that, and that is like, you know, there's a lot of change coming this summer, right? We know, like leading up to the Silver Symposium, and you know the timing of that is pretty good there. But I mean, we've got a new world currency allegedly on the horizon in August, coming out of Durban in South Africa with BRICS. We have countries potentially launching like things like FedNow and CBDCs that are being implemented with cryptos really being used for whatever purpose. It's not clear yet, but everybody's trying to read the tea leaves and see where everything's heading, and everybody's got different information. And that's where, like, you know, like our show, we talk about different things and we try to piece things together. But I think that what you've done in your channel, and for the benefit of this new audience, for you, like exposure to you there, like, what's your take on things? Like, where do you see the country being 6 months, 8 months, 12 months out from now? Like, where is the financials heading? Or is it just right down? It's like heading the continuous downward spiral? Or are there going to be new launches that are just changing things? Or is gold going to get more valuable? What's going to happen in your opinion?
On a macro level, God, you know, guys, it's really tough. Every day I fall out of a different side of the bed. One day I really think we're going inflationary, and the next day I think it's actually maybe we could have, you know, I think we're going to have that 6 months to a year and a half going forward. That's going to be the things you really want and really need are going to be inflationary, and the things that you don't need are going to come down in price and be deflationary. I think that's pretty obvious. That's already starting to happen now. However, if I were a betting man, we don't look good. We look really bad right now. Nothing looks good economically. However, I've seen this pattern before, and for some way or some reason, they seem to be able to stoke the right fire that they're able to pull it off by the skin of their teeth. And I have no idea how they do it sometimes in the background, but they do seem to pull it off. However, this time, it's a global mess. and it's a banking global mess. And it's not just about banks, it's about the liquidity of the banks, and it's about the value of the asset in which the banks have built their collateral upon. Not good. That's not a good, it's not sound money, as you and I know. And they've used it, they've weaponized it, and they've created distrust with it. And frankly, I don't even know how we've trusted it this long. But to me, it's going to take, I think you and I talked about this the other day, Jeff. It's going to take the little man saying, oh, no, I don't believe in that anymore. Because the worker bees, the slaves, whatever, debt slaves, still believe in the dollar. And I think it is fundamentally a big piece of the pie when governments or other banks around the world don't believe in the dollar is huge. There's still people that are willing to do the work and the labor all around the world because of that greenback. And I don't just mean it in this cash form. So I struggle. I don't have a crystal ball, and I do listen to a lot of people. I listen to more YouTube today than I've ever probably listened to in my whole life, and people I really trust, people that I've listened to for 15, 20 years on YouTube type people, economists and precious metals guys, and they're as torn as most people. Most of them think it's crashing tomorrow, but I've heard that for my whole life almost. So I don't know. I know I didn't answer that question well, but if I had a guess and if I was a betting man, I'm 51%. We're looking at worse days ahead of us than today. It's a slow deterioration, and one day there'll be that one straw that's just too far that the little man just says, no, I don't want that anymore. I'm sorry your toilet's plugged, but I'm not going to go over there and clean your sewer out for that. You're going to have to come up with something else. And when that occurs, they have no more power over the people. But that could take a long time. I don't know. How would you guys answer that question?
Yeah, that's a good point that you make, that it could take a long time. I think that's part of the game, right? Is it, if it is collapsing and crashing and going to, and we all think that it is. I mean, that's why we're in the Bitcoin crypto prepping space, that we think there's there's fundamental problems with the current system. And I mean, but the game, it makes sense that it'd be played where they make it seem like it's going to last longer, that there's not as big of a problem, and they just try to kick that can down the road as long as possible. But I was hearing someone was talking about it. It was a short on Instagram, but they were talking about service-based businesses combined with age of neighborhoods and the age of owners of these service-based businesses, like plumbers, for example, right? And they were talking about how most of those businesses most are owned by people that are getting closer and closer to retirement age. And at the same time, we have neighborhoods, millions of homes that were built long enough ago that they're really coming into like the golden era of needing to be worked on. And so it's the right combination of losing these businesses to work on those houses, or not having enough people there, and those houses needing help and needing repair. And a storm like that, it's like a perfect storm for creating the scenarios that you talked about, where the working class person's like, no, I'm not, like, I have the power, right? Everyone needs my help. Everyone needs me to come in and fix their plumbing today, right? I'm not going to accept your whatever offer for $50 an hour or $75 an hour, right? And there's going to be a name your price. And I did some work the other day. I have a kind of a power washing side hustle, and was working on a multi-million-dollar house. And they were trying to haggle me on the price to clean their house. And it's like they needed it cleaned ASAP. They wanted it cleaned in a special way. It was a complicated project. And even still, like, oh man, that's expensive. And I'm back there thinking, like, when you really know all the things that goes into it, it's not. And when you start thinking as the working person, and this is something that I always tell everyone to think about listening to the show, especially if you're an entrepreneur. I talked to the guy there that was doing windows, and he's like, yeah, I just try to average $50 an hour, and he has his own business. I'm like, that's great, but like $50 an hour is not going to cut it. You're not going to have anything to take home at $50 an hour. I mean, you're cleaning windows on a $5+ million house in Vail, Colorado. Like you can charge more. They can afford more than $50 an hour, and you should charge more than $50 an hour. And that people need to start waking up to that fact. And sooner or later, like, I think there's going to be a shift made where, the workers will kind of realize what kind of power they have.
Yeah, totally agree. And I don't think a lot of people really understand the level of inflation that's hit the man over the last 2 years in particular. It's huge. What they've done to the money system since 2020 is just ridiculous. It's absurd. And the fact that people still believe in it's crazy to me. I've never seen, I started getting into, I was telling Jack, I bought silver contracts in 1980. My father-in-law got me into investing when I was 20 years old. I married young, and I was studying to be a stockbroker 4 years later. So I've been in this game a while, not on a professional level as far as stockbroker. I was for a while, but I got tired of lying to old ladies, to be honest. But those people will sell anything to anybody, and that was something. Now I'm going way off track here, but one of the things that I knew crypto was going to succeed at was getting Wall Street to sell it, because those people will sell anything. And it's just a matter of time before those people are in and selling it to everybody. And you and I need to be ahead of that wave. But going back to the money thing, for so many years now, following investments and economics has really been my passion forever. And then you can imagine me sitting down with billionaires on their boat drinking scotch, and they're more comfortable on their boat than they are anywhere else on the planet. And they're there 24 hours a day for weeks on end. And they get comfortable with you and they'll tell you anything. Well, even now, I've never heard anybody talk in the background, even drunk on scotch, how crazy it is today. I've never heard anybody in fear the way even the pretty wealthy people I work for, really wealthy right now. And actually, I'm on their boat. I should probably be a little quieter. But they're very concerned because they're in real estate big time, like 4 different states. And you can hear it in their voice. I've never heard that like I hear it today. So it's an indicator of a lot's changed. And I think it's changed from the bottom up, like you were just talking about. People don't want to do that for that anymore. And banks don't want to loan anymore. And this commercial banking or commercial real estate is a problem for them, and they know it. It could be really bad, guys. By the time we're at the Sober Symposium, they could be bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but the signs are there.
Well, because for a lot of real estate, I mean, one of the big strategies is you don't ever pay off the debt. You just keep accumulating more debt to buy more properties. You get a place, you get someone in that pays enough that you can cover the interest payments, and then you refinance and you get another one and another one and another one. What happens when the underlying asset goes bad and there's no one to pay that interest or make those payments? Well, is that kind of that seems like a kind of situation that we're potentially entering into?
It's a multi-dimensional problem with the interest rates, because they can't keep raising them. I mean, they want to keep raising them, but that's killing the real estate market. They can't lower them because then that's going to destroy the bond market. So they're kind of stuck between the two. Real estate's imploding. Patrick and I saw a couple of tweets last night about like the Airbnb business just imploding all over the place. Even where I used to live in Myrtle Beach, like rents are down 40% from last season. That's happening everywhere. And then it's a global phenomenon, as Allan was pointing out, because I just learned this from, I think it was from allegedly, he was talking that in Australia, they have to refinance their houses every 2 years. Like, it's mandatory. It's ridiculous. It's like a 30-year amortization, like we have 30-year mortgages here in the US, but you don't have to refinance. They have to. I think Canada is the same way. That might be a 5-year
They
deal.
are.
I don't know.
This is the only country I know of that has 30-year mortgages. I don't know of another one that has a 30-year mortgage. I know Mexico's 20. So I've been down there. But exactly. And the thing about that, when you have that kind of perpetual debt, okay, and there's always a new buyer, it's great when the music's playing, but when the music stops, like you're saying, you know, everybody's looking for the chair. Well, what happens is, what's even almost worse than that for them is they're not creating new debt, okay? Because when people start paying loans off, they don't want that either. That's insanely deflationary, which is they won't do deflation.
Yeah, that destroys money.
Yeah, they can't succeed in that environment, and they're not going to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
People,
and it's compounded. I mean, as you were talking about, you know, the price is going up, you know, in the last since 2020, the money supply has gone up 50%. And that's why the prices are going so up. And Dylan, to your point, I think people need to start realizing what their power is and charging their rates accordingly, because if prices are going up 50%, you should be charging your rates going up 50%. And then it gets into this vicious cycle. Like, well, $50 an hour becomes 75. Well, now the groceries cost 20% more, and now I got to charge $80 an hour, and so on and so on. And then it gets even worse with the money supply that they're destroying with killing loans, because while we look at the M2 or M1 money supply, that's a fraction of what the paper market is for gold and silver and all these other derivatives and mortgages out there that are teetering on the brink of disaster on every single market. One market I did want to touch on before we wrap up, Allan, is I saw this story today that came out. It was about another barometer on Zero Hedge about, they call it middle class. I don't know how many middle class people are buying Rolexes, but the price of Rolexes had dropped to a 2-year low, like these expensive watches that appreciate in value and hold the value over time. The bottom's falling on the market. Same with diamonds. So I'm curious to ask, what is the take on the boating industry? How is that being viewed? I know you said there are a lot of people that are very comfortable living in their yachts, but are you seeing an impact in the boating industry as well?
Yeah, well, over the last 2 years, it's exploded. The amount of millionaires and semi-billionaires, if you will, that have been created, it's just been astronomical for this business. I mean, I tried to retire 5 years ago. I mean, I'm very limited part-time now. And it's been nuts. I've never seen a growth spurt. There's one of the Fed ship builds the finest yachts in the world, in my opinion. They're a Dutch company. They're 5 years out in a build. Okay. You have to put 75% down for a 5-year out build. Well, by the time that build comes to date, there are billionaires in line that will buy it from you when it's 6 months from launch at double what you paid for it. That's been going on for about 10 years now. Okay. It just slowed down the first of the year. It was the first time a good friend of mine's a yacht broker. It's my brother-in-law, actually. Well, was my brother-in-law. And the thing about he was telling me, I was asking, these are the kind of questions I ask him. I said, well, okay, what's going on with the payment structure? How much are they putting down? Are they still buying boats before launch? And what's the rate of that? And he said, it's crashed. And I said, well, is it top end? He said, no, not the top end boats. Not anything like 200 feet or above. That's still solid as a rock. I said, okay, well, this is great. It's a great question. In 2005, by the way, Travis isn't the only guy that sold all 3 of his homes. I sold in 2005, the end of 2005, 2006, all my property. And the biggest reason why I did is because I knew $10 million boats that couldn't sell. They couldn't sell them. And I was like, I never seen that before. And then I had my boss aboard who had back then it was, since 20 years ago, whatever that is, almost 20 years ago now. he had a $15 million home in Miami that he was trying to sell, and he hadn't even had anybody to look at it. And I was like, I'm out. I've got to get out of here because I know it's going to trickle down. And that's kind of one of the things I'd love to talk to Travis about, because one of the things that a lot of people don't know is it starts at the top first and works its way down. Mm-hmm. People think the poor can't afford their payments and then they get out of houses and they foreclose. No, when nobody buys the 10 and 20 and $30 million homes, that was my indicator back then. And I think it's happening again. I don't have my pulse on my finger on the pulse of homes, but I know boats have dramatically slowed down. But that was it's been a few months now that's been happening. So,
well, we got a few more months until the Silver Symposium, and we'll be there in a couple months, along with Allan and Travis. And the Economic Ninja will be there. I can pull up real quick and show the speakers. So be sure and get your tickets. The discount ticket, Patrick is our host again, and there's the Ninja is going to be there. So we'll be there at the end of September along with Allan. And here's where to follow Allan on the Stable Crew on YouTube, and that link will be in the description below. But yeah, definitely come on out and see where we're at in a couple months, because we're all right along with you trying to sort it all out. But we hope to see you there at the end of September. Allan, we really appreciate you joining us this week. We'd love to have you back again. So for all the rest of the guys and the rest of our crew, I'm going to say be prepared and not scared, and we'll see you next time.